Welcome to another edition of Life Outdoors. I am your host, Chris Reckling. Thank you so much for joining us here on Life Outdoors. Life Outdoors is sponsored by Ocracoke Tourism Development Authority. Ocracoke, miles from the mainstream. If you are a birder and if you know the difference between a tufted titmouse and a Carolina chickadee, if you know the difference between your birds or you just like seeing birds, well, you're in luck because you can take part in a volunteer citizen science project called the Great Backyard Bird Count, and it is happening this weekend. And joining us now is Evan Spears, who is a visitor experience specialist with the Virginia State Parks. Evan, welcome to Life Outdoors. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little about yourself. How'd you become a ranger and start working for the Virginia State Parks, and what's that like?
Sure. I first got my start as an interpretive ranger at Bear Creek Lake State Park in Cumberland County. I love the outdoors, and I wanted to share it with the community and with the world. And after working there for a couple years, I moved over to Appomattox County at Holiday Lake State Park. Worked there for several years, and then for the past 5 years, I've been a visitor experience specialist, assisting all of our state parks in presenting programs to the public. So if you've been on a bird walk or canoe tour at a state park, I've been the person who's trained some of those staff.
And so you are obviously a naturalist, an outdoors person, and a birder yourself, right?
Yeah, I love bird watching. If I'm not working, I'm out birding. And so showing people how they can count birds at state parks or in their backyards is one of my favorite things to do.
So if you're watching, the Great Backyard Bird Count is Friday to Monday, February 13th through the 16th. It's an amazing thing that gathers a lot of information that can be used to help the populations of the birds around the world, not just here in the United States, but everywhere around the world is taking part in this. Tell everybody about what you know about the Great Backyard Bird Count, and then we'll just talk birds, man.
Sure. It got started in 1998 with only mostly North America participating, but basically people counting birds over the course of a weekend and submitting that data to scientists and them using that to study bird populations. Since then, the count has expanded and now is, like you said, people can count birds all around the world over the course of 4 days. And all it takes is 15 minutes of counting birds in your backyard or at a state park, and then logging those birds online. And that data really helps out scientists, especially in February, because this is a peak time for birds right before they begin to migrate, especially in North America.
And this is a great time to see birds because, the trees, all the leaves are down. You can spot them a little bit easier. They're getting ready for that spring migration. And you just never know what you're going to see, and which makes it a perfect time to see birds. Of course, you might not see a hummingbird unless you're really lucky. But we thought, just the beauty of all birds, we thought I would include it in this. So 15 minutes in your backyard, at a park, wherever it is. How can people do this? Because if you don't know your birds, how could you identify these birds?
Yeah, if you've got a local bird club, that would be a good place to start. They might be holding a walk at a local park in your area. The Merlin Bird ID app is a really popular one. It's a great way to identify birds based on sight and sound. You can just walk outside and hit record, and it'll tell you generally pretty accurately what you're seeing and hearing. And then, yeah, visiting our parks. Some of our state parks have rangers who know a lot about birds, and they're offering programs during those 4 days coming up. And so you can join a guided bird walk and count birds at a park.
So once you've identified your birds over a 15-minute time, then just go to birdcount.org and register your birds. And you, along with thousands, if not hopefully millions of people, have done the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Even if you don't know all the birds, you can learn some of the very basic birds you might see in your yard, like the ones you mentioned earlier: tufted titmouse, Carolina chickadee, blue jays, northern cardinals. There's a few pretty common backyard birds in Virginia you could learn right away before the count starts, and then you could help contribute to this global bird count.
the cedar waxwing, the American kestrel, the northern yellow warbler, the bald eagle, the barred owl, the great horned owl. The list is long. There's thousands of birds. Last year alone, over 8,000 species were identified in the bird count. And 8,000 species, that's pretty amazing. What are some of the birds you see in your neck of the woods? You're located there near Farmville, just west of Richmond. What types of birds are you seeing there?
Yeah, especially with the recent snow and ice, I've kept my bird feeders filled, and I've had a ton of purple finches and American goldfinches visiting. Lots of blue jays, some American crows coming down to the backyard, and then one of my favorites, common grackles, stopping in every once in a while
Oh man,
and
they're so loud.
getting some food.
Those grackles are loud. They'll let you know. They used to
Oh
wake me
yeah,
up at Sandbridge. You know, for some reason, the grackles like the beach, and they make so much noise, especially in the springtime. Which, of course, that's the mating time. So they're trying to find mates or whatever. I was, fortunate enough. I go to First Landing quite often, and I was riding the bike a while back, and I stopped and I just started looking around, and I spotted a barred owl up in the trees. And I mean, that's one of the birds that are so hard to see are owls. I mean,
yeah.
how many times have you seen an owl? I mean, other than a screech owl, if you're lucky finding one in a hole. I mean, is that a bird that you've been able to identify or see? Because they're kind of hard to see.
Yeah, barred owl especially holds a good place in my heart. That was actually one of the first birds I heard as a child. My parents used to take us every summer down to Fairy Stone State Park, and we'd go on these guided bird walks, nocturnal bird walks along the
Wow.
trail with the ranger. And one of the first birds I heard as a kid was a barred owl, deep in the woods, making their hooting. And so you usually hear them more than you see them, but if you're in the right
Mm-hmm.
place at the right time, you might be able to see an owl.
At my last house, I put up what I thought was a wood duck box, and it quickly got taken over by a screech owl, which within like a couple of weeks, which I was so stoked because I'd rather have a screech owl than a wood duck in there. But I mean, really, then it just hung out every day, just sat there and how do you see a screech owl? How do you see a barred owl? Whatever it is, most of the times they'll be chilling out in the daytime, facing the sun, at a lower level, right? I mean, they're not real high; they stay low. So if you know a little bit about your species and birds, you'll be able to identify them, right, Evan? I mean, if
Yeah.
you know what you're looking for, you might be able to find them.
Yeah, almost every bird has a specific habitat they know and love, the place they can get their food and their water. And so, if you go looking for a certain bird, like a screech owl at the edge of maybe some thick pines, or a barred owl, some bottom hardwood forests, or a great horned owl, maybe some upland conifer forests, you could probably find those birds if you look and listen hard enough.
Okay, so we're chatting with Evan Spears with the Virginia State Parks. We're talking about the Great Backyard Bird Count. We're going to take a short break here on Life Outdoors, and we'll be back and talk more. And maybe we'll chat about the bald eagle, which has made an amazing comeback. Stick around, everyone. You're watching Life Outdoors.
Visit Ocracoke and step into a world where every moment feels like a getaway. Savor fresh seafood straight from the sea, stroll along sun-kissed beaches, and let the gentle breeze carry your cares away. Paddle calm waters, explore hidden trails, and discover the unique stories that make this island unforgettable. Explore a village where the pace is gentle, and every corner holds a story. Whether it's a beach campfire or a quiet walk, Ocracoke offers moments that linger long after you leave. Slow down, you're here. Plan your escape at visitocracokenc.com.
Welcome back to Life Outdoors. I'm your host, Chris Reckling. Today we're talking birds with Evan Spears with the Virginia State Parks here on Life Outdoors. Evan, in the first segment, we talked about the great backyard bird count and how you can take part in it. Let's talk more about some of what actually is done with the data. Once you spend like 15 minutes, try to collect as many birds as you can find. Then you send it off to birdcount.org. Then they take the information. What are they doing with the information?
Sure. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology uses bird count data from this Great Backyard Bird Count to study bird populations around the world. As I mentioned earlier, February is a prime time to count birds because it's right before many of our birds in North America begin to migrate. So many birds moving from the south up to the north as the weather changes and as food availability changes. So studying birds based on the data that people submit is really helpful because there aren't enough scientists to cover every part of the globe, but we have plenty of people out there who are willing to count birds and submit this amazing data.
And what it is it's real-time collected data at the same time. So once people in the 4 days, they can collect it. Cornell Lab and will take it, and they'll crunch the numbers and see if there's any changes in migration, climate change, what that's doing to habitat. They're collecting the data for people around the country and the world to see what kind of changes are made, because birds are under a lot of pressure right now with loss of habitat and environmental factors that are sort of doing a number on birds, and not just that, but even just feral cats take out so many birds. Birds are kind of under fire, right, Evan?
Yeah, definitely. Lots of threats to many bird species around the world. The ones you mentioned, but yeah, habitat loss, invasive species, climate change are some of the biggest threats to birds. And counting birds is some of the best ways to understand how bird populations are changing. Are some of them going up, some of them going down, some of them staying the same? Be hard to say if it weren't for all of these amazing participants every year counting birds and submitting this data.
Long-term trends, we've all seen it. If you've been around for a while and you've known your bird, you've understood certain things about birds. Let's just take, we'll talk about the bald eagle in a second, but pelicans, growing up here in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads as a young kid, you never saw a pelican. Now they're prolific. They're here in the wintertime, Evan. So their populations are doing well. And that leads us to the bald eagle, which you never saw a bald eagle. Now it's not uncommon to see a bald eagle on a regular basis living in an urban society here in Hampton Roads. I see them almost daily. There's nesting pairs that hang out on telephone poles that, they're in areas that are just remarkable, and it all comes down to conservation. What sort of species are you seeing out there that your way? Do you have many bald eagles out that way?
Yeah, like you said, bald eagles have become a lot more prevalent in the past several years. We've actually got an amazing pair of eagles that have been nesting at one of the local lakes around Farmville for the past several years, and it's amazing every year to watch them around this time of year, late January, early February, starting to build a nest and then lay some eggs. And within the next probably few weeks, maybe some of those eggs will hatch and we'll have some baby bald eagles.
Shout out to our rehabilitators out there as well who are taking care of these amazing birds. We have a local eagle rehabber here in town who does amazing work. He's released over 200 back into the wild, and it's not just those, but it's also other raptors and birds of prey, your owls, your hawks, falcons, or whatever it is. Talk about the dangers that face with them, especially with maybe hunters and lead shot and just drivers, and how most of these birds are just getting clipped on the side of the road.
Yeah, a lot of birds are used to having their habitats be fairly continuous. And so roads, power line corridors have definitely interrupted and fragmented a lot of the habitats, especially in North America. And so state parks are amazing because a lot of times, a lot of our state parks are pieces of public land that preserve some of these large contiguous areas of forest or field or bodies of water to preserve some of these habitats, prevent them from being divvied up into different parcels. So, and then a lot of times our state parks are adjacent to other state lands or federal lands that are also part of a bigger conservation management system. So it's incredible that we have so many amazing places to go in Virginia to see birds.
But birds, they're under a lot of pressure to find their own way. Since the bald eagle is now actually growing in numbers, they are big birds that have to spread out. So they're living within the confines of the city and finding places to live. Not just them, but hawks and owls. And if they're living in the city and they're doing their thing, they're picking off mice, rodents, and people at home don't understand it. When they put out poison to kill the rodents, a lot of times that will make this way to a raptor, and that's one of the biggest issues that our local rehabilitators talk about is rodenticide. So if there's a humane way to kill your rodents, you're going to save an owl's life probably.
Yeah. There are many ways, many things you can do to help support birds in your area. One of the main things that I like to recommend is birds are just like us. So think about the things that you need, shelter, water, and food. If you provide those for birds in your local area or in your backyard, birds are going to thrive. So shelter, for example, I love to build some brush piles in my backyard, take some old discarded, branches, build them up into little brush piles around the edge of the yard near your feeders. These provide places for birds to shelter down during cold weather, or when a hawk comes through and tries to eat them, they can run away and hide. Providing water, especially in the wintertime when a lot of our water freezes over, is important. You can buy a bird bath heater and keep some of that water unfrozen. And then food. There are plenty of different bird seeds out there, but buying just some regular black oil sunflower seed and having it out for the birds in the winter is an amazing thing you can do.
Yeah, and if you love your birds, it's so easy to attract them this time of year because do you have snow on the ground where you're at right now?
Oh, yeah, plenty of snow, and so I keep throwing seed out, and they're eating it like crazy.
They're eating it like crazy. Do you ever get any Baltimore Orioles your way? Have you been able to lure one of those your way?
Yeah, a few of our local bird club members do have a Baltimore Oriole at their house, and their key to getting them is to have a fruit or a jelly feeder. Yep. So putting out some grape jelly or some orange slices seem to attract the Orioles in the winter.
Yeah, I've not had luck getting one of those to come to me, which, one of these days, you get excited when you're like, oh my gosh, you know it when you see it because they're really hard to catch.
Yeah,
okay,
keep trying.
Yeah, so we're going to take a short break on Life Outdoors, and we're going to talk more about the Great Backyard Bird Count and how you can take part, and we'll also talk more birds with Evan Spears from Virginia State Parks. So Virginia State Parks, so stick around for that. Welcome back to Life Outdoors. We're talking to Evan Spears, who is with the Virginia State Parks. His title is Visitor Experience Specialist. I love that title, Evan. So what is your job like?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate in that I get to assist our state park staff in offering some amazing quality programs to the public. So, for example, if you ever go on a hike at a park or a campfire program that's guided or led by a park ranger, I'm one of the people who is usually trained those rangers to give the public really amazing connections to the outdoors.
And what are you guys doing specifically for the Great Backyard Bird Count? Not all Virginia State Parks are taking part in it, or they're all available to anyone who wants to do the Great Backyard Bird Count. However, some aren't offering programs. Are you guys offering something?
Yeah, if you visit virginiastateparks.gov, you can find a list of all of our state parks that are offering programs during the Great Backyard Bird Count. One of them that I want to shout out and highlight in my area, my neck of the woods, is going to be at Powhatan State Park, just west of Richmond. They're actually doing an evening bird walk to look for American woodcock. These are a small bird about the size of a dove, really secretive. They're a forest sandpiper, forest shorebird, that pretty much comes out in February in the evenings, and they do these amazing flights over fields where they fly up and make this tweetering sound and then come back down to the ground really fast and then make this painting sound while they're on the ground. And seeing this up and down flight and listening to these crazy little woodland birds, these field birds, is quite an experience. So I want to shout them out.
Can I put you on the spot? What do they sound like?
Oh gosh!
If you can't do it, woodcock.
When they're in the air, their wings whistle. I can't quite make that noise, but when they're on the ground and they actually make a call with their mouth, it goes, "Beep, beep."
Okay, all right. So just last weekend, I witnessed a kingfisher doing it. It was hovering. It was hitting its wings and it was just hovering. which is really cool when you see a bird hover like that. Like, whoa, they're special. And you can hear them a mile away. They're so loud. I know you have them in your area too. They're everywhere, it seems.
Oh yeah. If you're just now getting into watching birds, looking for birds, listening and looking for birds is a skill that you start to realize. Knowing where to look and when to look is really important. But especially around bodies of water, listening for the call of an eagle, listening for a kingfisher calling in the distance. That's some of the best ways to get started with bird watching, is just to start noticing some of the normal birds you see in the places you frequent.
And let's take that one step further. Know your species and know the characteristics. And if you want to see an eagle, look really high. They soar really, really high. And know the difference between that and a turkey vulture, the buzzard, because a lot of times you'll see a buzzard, people will go, "Is that an eagle?" But if you know that their wings are kind of pointed up, or half the size too. So if you know the characteristics, you'll be. And sometimes it's amazing if you just stop and sit and listen to what you're hearing, and then if you have the Merlin app, if you don't know what it's like, hit the Merlin app and it'll identify the sound for you. So there's just know your characteristics, and of course, the cardinal, beep, 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 they just make a peeping sound. So go ahead and add to that, Evan, whatever you want to add, because, you can take this and, of course, have a good pair of binoculars, right?
Yeah, you don't need some really fancy equipment to go bird watching, but it definitely helps. I've got a pair of binoculars, a camera, and a telescope, but you don't need any of that to count in your backyard. One of the things that I love to do, like you said, is just going out and being quiet for a few minutes and just listening and looking to see what birds are out and about. Birds are so numerous, they're all around. You'd be hard pressed to go a single day in Virginia without seeing a bird around. So they're everywhere.
Once again, the Great Backyard Bird Count is Friday through Monday, February 13th through the 16th. Go to birdcount.org and count your birds, send in your information, and just do something that's fun, because it is a volunteer citizen science project that's being done all around the world. You've done it before. How successful have you been in the past, Evan?
Yeah, I've joined in on some of these ranger guided walks before at some of the parks in my area, and we see lots of species, anywhere from some mourning doves to some northern cardinals to, like you said, bald eagles. Really, every time you go out, it's a new experience with bird watching.
You're a fan of the grackle. Those things are so loud. They woke me up so many times. I kind of like, grackle. Know the difference between a sparrow and a thrush or whatever it is. There's so many different birds out there, and pigeons, of course. I don't know if they'll take that in the count, but I guess they will, right?
Yeah, you can count native birds and the non-native birds as well.
Pigeons, sparrows, they all count. Do you have a favorite duck? Because, we're talking all kinds. Does a duck count in the bird count?
Definitely, yeah. Okay. Especially with a lot of bodies of water freezing up right now in my area. The James River's frozen, Appomattox River's frozen. We've got a few lakes in the area that are still open. Tons of ducks have come in, and I'd say some of my favorites are the mergansers. These are diving ducks that dive deep underwater to catch fish, and they're really incredible to see.
The hooded merganser. I'm a big fan of the wood duck. They're just such a beautiful bird there. All right, so once again, bird populations need your help. You can do it in so many different ways, and just sort of take note and just enjoy. What does someone get out of becoming a bird watcher? What will they get out of it?
Yeah, I'd say bird watching is actually fairly spiritual. It's when you go outside, it's a connection with nature on a whole nother level. Once you begin to see and notice all of the creatures around you, you begin to really understand how connected we all are. And so I'd say you definitely gain a more profound understanding of life on the planet when you're a bird watcher.
And Evan, well said, and we'll leave it at that. That is the essence of what we talked about this show, Life Outdoors. Whatever it's happening outdoors, we'd like to talk about it, and counting birds is certainly right up there with the top of them. Evan, we can't thank you enough for joining us today, and enjoy your time there working in the Virginia State Parks. I'm a little bit jealous of you.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.
Once again, Life Outdoors is brought to you by Ocracoke Tourism Development Authority. Ocracoke, miles from the mainstream. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on Life Outdoors. We'll see you next time on Life Outdoors.